So this is the Civil Forfeiture Grant webinar, and we will be speaking with you until about 3 o'clock on how to apply for a Civil Forfeiture Grant from the Ministry of Justice. So welcome, everyone. With me, I have Patty Boyle, who is our Assistant Deputy Minister, and Ali Butler, who is our Senior Policy Analyst. And Steve Lauer is also available for any technical difficulties that you're having. And there is a contact for Steve at the beginning of the PowerPoint. So I will just turn it over to Patty and Ali to introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here today, and thank you for joining us. The Crime Prevention and Remediation Grant Program is an important opportunity for our branch to support the community and policing partners in addressing crime and violence in BC communities. And this year, our priorities for grant funding include addressing violence against women, youth anti-gang and crime prevention initiatives, training and restorative justice. And each year, we fund excellent programs from around the province to help prevent crime and remediate the impacts of crime on individuals, families, and communities. We're really pleased to provide our first webinar in the grant program, which is designed to help you with your funding application. And if I didn't say it at the beginning, I am not Ali. I'm Patty Boyle, the ADM of Community Safety and Crime Prevention Branch. But so thank you very much for your efforts to keep BC communities safe for all. And I'm going to turn it over to Ali and Roz to take you through the PowerPoint presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ali Butler. I'm a Senior Policy Analyst here with the Community Safety and Crime Prevention Branch. And you're going to hear both Roz and I now throughout the next hour or so as we take you through this presentation.
Great. Thank you, Patty, and thank you, Ali. Just a note that we will be taking your questions. For the next few minutes, we'd like to go through our PowerPoint slides with you, and we hope that will give you a good understanding of our Civil Forfeiture Grant Program this year. This is the agenda. I've got the agenda slide up for those of you who are following along on the PDF. So we'll give you an overview of the Crime Prevention and Remediation Grant Program and CFO. We'll be looking at the CFO funding streams for 2015-16. We'll be taking you through each of the funding streams and providing you with information about each of the specific requirements and criteria in the applications. We'll be looking next at helpful tips for applicants, how funding decisions are made, the timelines for the grant process, and the feedback process that we have for those that are unsuccessful. At the end of the presentation, we will be opening up the conference call and the link chat for your questions. So please hold your questions till the end, and we'll be really pleased to answer them then.
So to start with, we just wanted to provide some background information about civil forfeiture in BC to help give you a bit more context around the grant process. So BC's Civil Forfeiture Office is part of the Community Safety and Crime Prevention Branch within the Ministry of Justice. And since 2006, that office has operated under the authority of the Civil Forfeiture Act. And that act and corresponding regulation allows the Director of Civil Forfeiture to initiate civil court proceedings against property believed to be the instruments or proceeds of unlawful activity. The Civil Forfeiture Office is self-funding, and the forfeited funds that they recover help to support the actual costs of running the office, and in addition, excess funds are used to compensate victims and support local crime prevention and remediation efforts, such as this grant program. The Ministry of Justice administers a Crime Prevention and Remediation Grant Program, which provides one-time funds through the proceeds of civil forfeiture. From year to year, priority areas for grants made available through the program are established through consideration of government's current strategic initiatives, crime trends, and often consultation with stakeholders. The value of civil forfeiture grants fluctuates year to year based on a variety of factors. However, the availability of grant funding is typically announced each year in the late fall or early winter. To date, the office has distributed over $22 million in crime prevention grants and victim compensation payments. I'm just going to turn it back over to Roz to start talking about this year's civil forfeiture stream.
Okay, thanks, Ali. I'm on slide 7 for those of you following along on the PDF. And this one's titled CFO Funding Streams for 2015-16. So this year we have 8 different funding streams. And this is the list of them. I won't read them out for you because we are actually going to take you through each and every one of these these funding streams, and just give you a bit more of an idea of what we're looking for in each of these streams.
Before we go into detail around the specific criteria in our 8 funding streams this year, I wanted to start by just talking about the mandatory criteria that we consistently put across all of our streams. So when you look at a civil forfeiture grant funding application, you'll often see very unique criteria that is specific to that stream, but you'll always see 3 things that we ask for in every stream application. And those things relate to need, outcomes and evaluation, and budget. So I'm just going to spend a little bit of time talking about those and the kinds of information that we're hoping and looking to see in proposals that we receive. So the first is need. We ask that people in their proposal demonstrate a clear need for their project. Generally, we see this demonstrated in a couple of different ways to us. One way is that people provide anecdotal information about the specific needs of their community or the specific need for their project, and or people can often provide us statistics of a more quantitative nature that demonstrate the need in their community. Either of these is acceptable in your funding application, and where possible, a combination usually helps provide a really fulsome and comprehensive look at the need in the community. So if you have both those things, we encourage you to provide both types of information to us there. The second criteria that's consistent across our applications is proposals must outline the intended outcomes of their project, so that being the specific results your project's designed to achieve, and also how outcomes will be evaluated, the methods or tools that you're going to use to measure progress and success. And I just want to highlight here that this section of the application really has 2 components that we're looking for. The first is to actually tell us what your outcomes are going to be. And we know that these are short-term or one-time projects, and so we're not looking for something that's crazy in depth or long-term in terms of outcomes, but these can be simple measures that you're going to be able to achieve through your project. Secondly, we're really looking to know how you intend to evaluate your program. And again, that doesn't have to be a fulsome evaluation that you're going to do, but perhaps you're going to do a feedback form for participants at the end of your project, or a brief pre- and post-survey with people who go through a program. So we're just looking for a little bit of information there on the types of tools that you would use to measure your program success. The third consistent criteria across each stream is budget. So proposals need to contain a reasonable budget and outline the steps to account for and report on how funds will be spent. Again, there's 2 components here. Each application is going to have a budget template that we ask you to fill out. And in addition to that, we ask people to let us know how they're going to account for and report on the funds that they spent. We often see that people complete the budget, but unfortunately they forget to tell us how they're going to account for how the funds are spent. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention so that you remember to fill out both of those components. Another tip for budgets is we really hope that and look for budgets that align with the project description, and we assess them based on a demonstration of value for money. So again, what we're looking for there is that the scope and reach of the project makes sense when looked at in the context of the amount of funding that you're asking for in the proposal. So those are the 3 criteria that, again, are consistent across each of our civil forfeiture streams this year. Now, I'm on slide 9 for folks who are following along on the PDF, and Roz and I are going to go through and talk more specifically about the stream-specific criteria for each of our 8 streams this year. So the first stream I'm going to talk about is a stream for developing and enhancing domestic violence units. For those who may be unfamiliar with the domestic violence unit, or a DVU as they're commonly referred to, it's a co-located and collaborative model between police and community-based victim services that responds to highest-risk domestic violence cases within a community. Often a DVU also includes a co-located child protection worker. So this stream, we have one-time grant funding of up to $70,000 per domestic violence unit available to develop new or to enhance existing units. We're also encouraging organizations to apply for smaller initiatives or projects that could be completed for less than $70,000. So our stream-specific mandatory criteria include proposals must clearly focus on developing a new or enhancing an existing domestic violence unit. Again, a clear need. And then proposals where people want to develop a new unit, as in a unit that's not currently operating in BC. We're asking people to provide evidence of collaboration between justice partners to develop that unit. So for example, that could include a letter of support from police, the community-based victim service organization, the Ministry of Children and Family Development, if you're going to co-locate a child protection worker, or another relevant partner. So at least one letter or multiple letters from those organizations just to demonstrate that they're on board with establishing a domestic violence unit in your community. I also wanted to bring folks' attention to eligibility for applying for this. This stream has a bit of a restricted eligibility on it. Given the partners that are involved in a domestic violence unit, only community-based victim service organizations or police partners can apply in this stream. And moving on to slide 10 now to talk about stream 2, which is healing and rebuilding after violence against Aboriginal women. For folks who are familiar with our grant process and perhaps applied last year, I think that this stream will look familiar to you, as it's very similar to a stream that we ran with last year. Under this stream, we have one-time grant funding of up to $20,000 a project to support initiatives or projects that use holistic approaches to assist victims or communities in healing or rebuilding from the impacts of violence against Aboriginal women. Our stream-specific criteria include proposals must focus clearly on holistic approaches to assist victims or communities in healing and rebuilding from the impacts of violence against women. And we've included a definition of holistic here so that everyone is operating and applying with the same definition in mind, and that's also included on the application form itself. Aside from that, we don't have any other stream-specific criteria here, and the application is open to a number of eligible types of organizations. I'm going to turn it over to Roz now to talk about stream 3.
Okay, thanks, Allie. And for those following along on the PowerPoint, we're on slide 11, looks like. And this is sexual assault strengthening responses on post-secondary campuses. And here we have one-time grant funding of up to $20,000 per project. And this is available for projects that develop or enhance responses on post-secondary campuses in BC to sexual assault. The stream-specific mandatory criteria are that proposals must clearly focus on developing or enhancing responses on post-secondary campuses to sexual assault. And this stream is very specific, and it's restricted to qualifying groups that include that list on your screen: post-secondary campus service providers, post-secondary student societies or organizations, post-secondary administrators, which could be faculty or staff applying on behalf of a post-secondary institution, or an organization that can demonstrate a working partnership with a post-secondary institution. So here we really want to ensure that the response that's being developed is in partnership with a post-secondary campus. The focus of this whole stream is really on strengthening the university and college campus response to sexual assault, because we know this has been a very big issue in the community for several years. And we're actually really pleased to be able to provide a couple of different streams focused specifically on sexual assault this year, and that's the first year we've done that. Okay, moving on to the next stream, and this is sexual assault, enhancing and developing coordinated cross-sector responses. So this stream is a little bit broader. One-time grant funding is available up to $40,000 per project, and it's to develop or enhance coordinated cross-sector responses to sexual assault. The stream-specific mandatory criteria include that proposals must clearly focus on developing or enhancing a coordinated cross-sector response to sexual assault. Cross-sector responses must include, at a minimum, 2 of the following partners: a police partner, a health provider, and a victim service/community service provider. And the reason for this is because this is a best practice or a promising practice in the field, that coordinated cross-sector partnerships and responses really do make a difference to the kind of response and the kind of services that are available to sexual assault victims as well. So that's why we've asked that a minimum of 2 partners be available to participate in these projects. And because we've asked for that, we would like you to demonstrate that collaboration between partners to develop this coordinated response through letters of support from either police, the community-based victim service organization, the health provider, or other relevant partners in the community. So please send those letters of support. They could be an email as well. Please send those along at the same time as your application, and we'll get to that in a couple minutes when we talk about some of the tips for applicants. The next stream is vulnerable women in the sex trade, trafficked women, and women or youth at risk of exploitation. This funding for this stream is up to $25,000 per project. And here we're looking for projects that provide outreach and coordination services to vulnerable women in the sex trade, or to trafficked women, or to women youth at risk of exploitation. This has a little bit of a different set of criteria, so I'll just go through those with you now. The stream-specific mandatory criteria is that the proposals must clearly focus on outreach and coordination services to vulnerable women in the sex trade, or trafficked women, or women youth at risk of exploitation. Now, because we're in the Ministry of Justice, and this is a crime prevention and crime remediation grant program, our preferred criteria include projects that focus on removing barriers to the justice system in order to encourage an increase in reporting in cases of violence, victimization, and exploitation, or projects that focus on Aboriginal women, because we know they're overrepresented in terms of victims of violence and exploitation, and or proposals that demonstrate community partnerships and multi-agency collaboration. Again, this is a best practice in the field, that coming together with local government, victim services, police, Crown Council, youth organizations, school districts, and other community partners really makes a difference in the success of these kinds of projects. So those are preferred criteria, and we do, when we're scoring, give them kind of an extra point, so they are not required. You don't have to answer these or provide a response to these questions in the application form. But if your project does focus in one of these 3 areas, these will be given a little bit more consideration because these are the things we're really looking for in this particular stream.
Okay, we're on slide 14 now for those following along on the PDF. The next stream this year is training and education for frontline victim service or violence against women service providers. In this stream, we have grant funding of up to $50,000 per project available to support training and education for Ministry of Justice funded frontline victim service and violence against women service providers. Again, we're encouraging organizations to apply for smaller, perhaps more community-focused training initiatives that could also be offered for less than $50,000. The stream-specific criteria here include a clear focus on providing training and education for frontline victim service and violence against women service providers in order to enhance services to victims of crime and trauma. And just an important note here, training and education projects must primarily target Ministry of Justice funded victim service and violence against women service providers, but they could also include other government or justice system or community partners. It's just that the Ministry of Justice funded program needs to be the primary target of your training. That being said, you're of course welcome to invite other members of the community that would benefit from this opportunity to attend a training event. So proposals need to demonstrate clear need and community support for the project. So we're asking people to provide two different kinds of letters here. The first is a letter of support from the trainer or the training organization to confirm their interest and availability in providing training as well as their qualifications in providing it. The second is if you intend to deliver your training to multiple organizations, we'd like at least one letter of support or an email from key community or government partners that articulates their interest in the training event and the level of need from their perspective. So through these letters, we're just trying to learn a couple things. One is that the trainer or training organization that you want to work with has the capacity and availability to provide that training in the next year, should you be successful with your grant application. And the second, that if you're wanting to offer training to multiple service providers within the community, that they're also interested in attending that training. We have a preferred criteria in this category. We're looking at training and education projects that have a legacy component that's available at no cost going forward. So that could be, for example, a train-the-trainer model, a practice guide or tip sheet that is produced alongside with your training event. Perhaps you would do a webinar and record that so that it could be used forward. Really, there's a variety of different ways that your project and proposal could speak to a legacy component, but we're trying to promote an ongoing and sustainable learning opportunity that would be available to communities or service providers after your initial training event is over. The next stream we're going to talk about, slide 15, is serving victims through restorative justice, enhancing capacity for complex cases. Through this stream, we have one-time grant funding of up to $20,000 per project available to support projects that enhance the capacity of restorative justice programs to take on more complex cases. And this stream really builds off some of the work that the ministry has been doing with restorative justice programs to enhance capacity and offer learning opportunities that would enable them to take on more complex cases. So our stream-specific criteria include proposals must clearly focus on enhancing program capacity to take on complex cases in order to better serve victims and increase the use of restorative justice approaches in BC. Complex cases here include, but are not limited to, those cases that might involve assault, break and enter, threats, and or fraud. And I just want to make a note here that consistent with our current Ministry of Justice Restorative Justice Community Accountability Program, proposals must not include addressing issues related to power-based crime. So for complex cases here, we are not talking about power-based crime, which would include violence against women in relationships, sexual assault, and or other hate-motivated crimes. Another one of our mandatory criteria includes demonstrating program capacity to take on complex cases. And we're also asking people to provide the following: a letter or email of support from one of their referral sources. So for example, perhaps police or your local Crown that speaks to your organization's ability to handle more complex cases. We're also looking for your current training plan for staff and volunteers, and a description of the complaint or feedback process that you have available to participants. So those three things will help to demonstrate the capacity of your restorative justice program to take on more complex cases. We have a bit of a more restricted eligibility for this one, and qualifying groups include restorative justice groups or agencies that are funded through the Ministry of Justice's Community Accountability Program. So commonly known as CAP programs, or the CAP-funded program.
Okay, thanks, Ali. I'm going to walk you through the very last stream, the Youth Anti-Gang Initiatives and Crime Prevention stream. One-time funding of up to $20,000 per project is available for anti-gang initiatives and projects that prevent at-risk youth's involvement in crime in BC. Now, this is a stream that we've run several times, many times in the past, and so you will notice similar criteria from the last couple of years. There's a fairly long list here, but generally what we're looking for is proposals that adopt an approach that addresses the root causes of crime. And the projects have to focus on youth who are at higher risk of involvement in crime. And they must demonstrate a focus in one or more of the following areas. And this list is really drawn from research and consultation that the branch has undertaken to learn about really what works for assisting at-risk youth in steering away from a life of crime. So we're really looking at things that engage youth in pro-social activities such as structured recreational activities, projects that engage and re-engage at-risk Aboriginal youth with their culture. One example is youth cultural camps. Other examples we've seen are engaging with elders, that kind of thing. Another type of project we're looking for is a project that might provide skill enhancement or increased employment or volunteer opportunities for at-risk youth, projects that might reintegrate or re-engage youth into the school system, and projects that might develop their relationship with positive peers and adults, such as in mentoring programs. The very last one we've added this year based on some additional research that we've done, and that is projects that build leadership, life skills, and problem-solving skills for at-risk youth. So all of these activities really increase a youth's resilience to crime and victimization. We have one other preferred criteria this year, and that is we're really looking to build our data about these kinds of projects. So we'd like to learn a bit more from you about the success of your projects. So this year, if you have the ability to conduct a pre or post evaluation survey with the youth that are involved in these projects or the coordinators, to help measure the success of your project, then that's really what we're looking for in this preferred criteria. And to assist you, we're going to provide a template for the evaluation survey for successful applicants. So if you indicate that you're willing to conduct a pre-post evaluation survey of some kind, and it will be very simple with youth that participate in your projects, then we'd really like to hear from you, and please indicate that in your application form. Okay, that concludes the 8 streams that we have this year. I know it's a long list and a long list of criteria, but we hope that's useful for you. It's sometimes difficult to read your way through all of those applications online. Next, we want to turn to a couple of slides that will give you some tips for how to apply for the CFO grant, and some of the things that we found in the past might be helpful for you to consider. So I'll turn it back to Ali.
Thanks, Roz. So all of our civil forfeiture grant applications are found on our website, and that would be the website where you learned about this webinar opportunity, or the link would have been provided through the email you received that also talked about this webinar opportunity. So hopefully everyone's familiar with that website page where you can find the applications, and if you're not, we can address that after the webinar is finished. So general tips for applicants. The first thing is please read each application carefully before submitting a proposal. And I know that sounds a bit like a no-brainer, but I think it's really important, especially this year where we have so many different streams, and each one has a set of unique criteria to it. So take a look at those criteria and choose the one that best fits your project. Or if you have multiple projects you're considering, think of the strongest proposals that you have, and then select the streams that are the best fit for that. The next tip I have is just double check to make sure that your organization is eligible to apply. As we've talked about, some of our streams this year have unique or restricted eligibility criteria, so just double check that before you go to the trouble of preparing your whole proposal. As we've talked about, our funding limits for each grant vary stream by stream. So just ensure that your budget request does not exceed the funding limit that's stated at the very front end of each application. And then Roz was talking about this earlier. This year we have a lot of streams where we're asking folks to submit either a letter or email, or perhaps multiple letters or emails that support their proposal. And we'd ask you to please, please, please submit those at the same time as your application. Unfortunately, if people submit those later or separately, given the volume of applications that we receive, they can get missed, or sometimes we don't see them at all that way. So just everything at once in a single email is much, much appreciated. I'm just moving on to slide 19 now, which has some more tips. So in the actual application, we often provide people a little bit more detail on what we're looking for. So we've pulled out an example here from the healing and rebuilding stream. So here we're asking proposals must clearly focus on holistic approaches to assist victims and our communities in healing or rebuilding from the impacts of violence against women. And then we've asked you to describe your planned project, including an outline of the project, the issue it will address, who the project will serve, project objectives and goals, what the project will do or what the activities will be, and how you will implement it. When we do things like that, we're really looking for you to touch on each one of those points. Something that can be really helpful, I think, in both preparing an application and also for our adjudication panels, feel free to use subheadings. If you want to list each one of those as a subheading within this section of the application to help organize your response there, that's great. It also helps us when we're reading things to make sure that you've covered off all of those parts of your project description. And that's true for this section of the application and perhaps others too. If you feel like subheadings, if you feel like bullets will help you, whatever you think will help streamline your application and help get all of those points covered, feel free to use those tools. I would encourage people to be very concrete and specific, avoid generalized jargon. We get a lot of applications, and it's helpful for us to be able to know kind of the very specific qualities of your program or proposal and what you're hoping to do there. And then another tip, please sign the last page of the application. We often get a lot of proposals where the last page is not signed, and if you haven't signed the last page of your application and you are successful in the grant process, we cannot actually provide a grant to you. So that's an important one. And then finally, I wanted to encourage people to contact the person listed at the end of each application form. So we have a stream contact there, someone within our branch, who can assist in answering your questions. So this person, for example, could provide information to you about stream criteria and additional requirements, such as the letters of support. They could help perhaps provide some guidance to you in which stream you should apply for. They could give you some advice on the level of detail required for each section of the proposal. They could lend some support to you in developing what we're looking for in terms of a budget, if you have any questions about that. And they can provide you general information about civil forfeiture timelines and the proposal review process. So if today you don't get a chance to ask your question at the end of the webinar, take a look at who your stream contact is at the end of the application or the stream that you're considering applying for, and give that person a call. They would love to hear from you.
Yes, they would. Okay, we're going to move on to the next slide, slide 20, how are decisions made? We have a formalized review and assessment process in place for the evaluation of all of our CFO grant applications that are received by the ministry. So we set up separate review teams established for each of the categories, and applications within those categories are individually evaluated and scored against the criteria. So this is really an important tip as well, is that the review teams can only score what's on the paper. So we can't guess, or we can't add, even if we think we might have an idea of where you're going with your project. Please be very specific, if you can, about exactly what you're trying to accomplish, because we can really only look at what is on the application itself. So once individuals look at the application, they score it against the review score sheet. Folks come together, and these are ministry staff for the most part. And they have a review team process. So there's 3 people on that, on each team for each stream, and they look at all of the applications and come up with a consensus score. So this is a score that all 3 of the reviewers agree to in terms of the final score for that application. Then we do have another process, which is an oversight review committee, which is a committee of senior executives and managers here at the branch that do have a final review process, and that's simply looking at things like some of the geographic distribution of the proposals, which is very important for us to consider. So decisions are made based on the highest scoring applications, and as I mentioned, geographic distribution and budget amounts are taken into account in making the final determinations. Hope that's clear. The timelines are as follows. We posted the applications on November 9th. You have until Thursday, December 17th of this year to get your applications completed, and please send them in by 4:30 p.m. at specific time on Thursday, December 17th, or before that. If you can get it in before that, that would be most appreciated. On December 23rd, all grant applications will receive a confirmation email from us that we've received your grant application, so you don't have to worry that it's gone missing or something. So that email will come to you by December 23rd. We then go into our review process here within the branch, and by March 31st, 2015, successful applications will be notified. And in fact, the unsuccessful applications are also notified on or about March 31st. And that's usually an email process, and then staff here are available to provide feedback to unsuccessful applicants. And I'll just turn that over to Ali to explain that a little bit more.
Thanks, Roz. I'm on slide 22 for those following along. Over the past few years, we've been looking for different ways in the branch to strengthen our civil forfeiture process and to provide different mechanisms for organizations who've applied for grants to connect with us so that they're more successful in the future, and also they feel more supported going through the grant process. So this webinar is one example of how we're doing that, but we've also put a feedback process in. So for folks who are unsuccessful in their grant application, you have an opportunity to speak with someone who was on the review team for that stream and to talk about why your application wasn't successful and discuss ways to strengthen future applications. And so we invite people to contact the person that will be listed in the email you receive, letting you know if you were successful or not. And then have that discussion. We're happy to do it. And I think in talking to people who have taken the opportunity to do that in past years, they have found it really helpful going forward when preparing applications for the next year.
Great. Okay, thank you very much, Ali. And that concludes our PowerPoint presentation. And there are some questions in the chat, as Steve is indicated, so I'm just going to scroll up to the top. Is that what I should do? Start with the top. Okay, so from Linda Parker. Hi, Linda. Your question is, and I'm going to read it out because I don't think everybody can, not everyone's on link. So we're starting a new RCMP restorative justice program. However, it's not funded through the Community Accountability Program. The program will not be funded by the RCMP or City of PG. Are we able to apply for funds through our nonprofit crime prevention society?
The answer is unfortunately not. This year we're only accepting applications from CAP-funded restorative justice program.
Conference is no longer in lecture mode.
Okay, Steve has just opened up the phone line. There are a couple of other questions on the link chat as well.
Maybe we'll go through those ones and then open it up to people on the phone.
Yep, sounds good. So the next question on the link is, we have a Girls Run for Fun program. Sorry, this is from Linda. Hi, Linda. We have a Girls Run for Fun program, oopsie, that targets, sorry, there's two of us on this computer. Sorry, we have a Girls Run for Fun program that targets inner city girls. We combine educational chats along with a Learn to Run component. The chats include information on drug awareness, personal safety, self-esteem, mental health, etc. Would this program be eligible for funding? This is something that would likely fit into our youth anti-gang initiatives and crime prevention stream. However, we do have a requirement in that stream that the focus is on at-risk youth, at risk of criminal activity. So you would need to explain how these particular girls might be at risk in that way. Some of the sorry, I'm just trying to get back to the list. Some of the things that you've listed there are good examples of ways to re-engage girls in who might be at high risk, and so things like self-esteem, mental health, those kinds of programs would likely fit. So please, again, have a look at the list of criteria, and you will need to speak to how those activities will, engage the youth in pro-social activities, or would re-engage them with positive peers or build their leadership skills. So you'll need to link these activities to the mandatory criteria.
I would just add to that too. I mean, we're trying to give you some direction based on a short description, but at the end of that funding application, there's a program manager named Keith, and he'd be happy to talk to you. If you can give him a bit more detail, he can perhaps give you an even better answer to whether or not that's a good fit for the stream.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, if your attention please. At 11:39 service for midnight. We're trying to get 25 is now available for voting.
So the next question is, we've received funding in the past for our youth at risk.
Is in lecture mode.
Sorry, we've received funding in the past for our youth at risk mentorship program that has expanded so successful to now include youth at risk from other jurisdictions. Would we be able to reapply for another grant to cover the costs to enable a program to continue? Last grant was in 2013. And yes, the answer to that question is yes, you can most definitely reapply. The next question is, we were at the BC Crime Prevention Symposium last week and found out that we can apply for a grant towards a vehicle. We use this vehicle in the delivery of the Youth at Risk Mentorship Program. Yes, this is, again, a separate area of civil forfeiture grant funding that you can apply for. It's actually not through our website here. We don't have a specific application form for that, but there is a contact person named Jared Larson at the Civil Forfeiture Office, and we can we put his email up, Steve?
Perhaps we could send that out.
Yeah, maybe we could send that out to everybody who signed up. We'll send Jared Larson's contact information out if you have a specific request about a vehicle.
Jared administers the component of civil forfeiture grants related to, very specifically related to police training and equipment. So if you're looking to find funding for, and you're working currently in a detachment and perhaps you're looking for a vehicle related to a crime prevention initiative or some kind of other piece of police equipment, then you need to direct that request to Jared, so we can help facilitate that as well.
And there was a question about the PDF, but the PDF was available to you in the webinar invitation, so I hope you've been able to find that. And I've got another question from Leanna. Are we able to apply for more than one stream if applicable? And the answer to that is yes. However, again, as we said throughout the presentation here today, please pick the stream that your application is, most suited for. And we do get an awful lot of applications for funds, so we're really looking for those that are very strong and very connected to the criteria in order to fund. So, but please have a look at all of the streams, and if you have more than one project, yes, we certainly do entertain multiple projects. So we've got another question from Doug in Cranbrook. Hi, Doug. If applying for CAP funding is a condition of applying for this funding, and applying for CAP funding disallows access to gaming funding, it makes establishing a restorative justice program very difficult. Any suggestions?
You're welcome to apply for civil forfeiture to the stream this year for restorative justice if you're a CAP-funded program. We do not restrict applications or assess your proposal in the context of whether or not you are a recipient of BC gaming grants. It has absolutely no bearing on whether or not you're successful through our process. So please don't feel that that you have to choose one or the other there. We know that community organizations look to whatever grant opportunities come their way. So you're welcome to apply for a civil forfeiture grant even if you're also applying to BC Gaming or you've received BC Gaming money already.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Allie. So from Carissa, are organizations able to submit applications to multiple streams to fund different projects? And yes, this is a similar question to the one I just answered. And yes, the answer to that is absolutely yes. But please make sure that the application is going to meet the stream criteria as best as you possibly can. And from Joel, could you provide us with a list of Ministry Justice funded victim service programs? And yes, that is available on our website. And
we'll include the link when we send out the...
Thank you, Steve, saying we'll include the link to this information when we send out the other information that we'll send to you at the end of this webinar. But it's available on the Victim Services website. And from Leanna, can we get feedback on previous grants submitted in earlier streams. I'm new to my organization. I've noticed there was a previous application that was not accepted. I would like to know the reasons why, then to avoid them in the future. Yes, you can certainly contact us about previous grants. And again, there should be a contact person for you in the email that was sent to you about your unsuccessful grant.
Yeah, that's not a problem. We do keep all of our grant applications and review forms. So once we're able to connect with you and identify which grant year and application you're talking about, be happy to go through that with you.
Great, thanks, Ellie. We've got another question from Martin. Would you consider all youth at risk of drug use, which fuels crime, if we provide universal prevention with a harm reduction component from those who self-identify? Could we apply for funding? Martin, I think it's probably best if you connected with Keith, who is the contact person on this stream. Generally, we're looking, not for drug abuse prevention generally, or anti-bullying or those kinds of things, but we're really looking for crime prevention projects. So it really depends on the details of your project. So perhaps I could refer you to Keith Ramzan, and his contact information is in the application for the youth crime prevention stream. And if you could give him a call, then you could discuss that in more detail. I'm just trying to see if there's any other questions. Got lots of. Oh, there we go. There's one. What is the age definition restriction for youth? And yes, we have really focused on the idea of youth being from 12 years of age to 24 years of age, and that is to take into account the fact that we're hearing about younger youth being involved in crime these days. So we're certainly interested in projects that would target that age range, 12 years of age to 24 years of age. And Catherine's got a question, who can apply for the anti-gang funding and are support letters required? So with the youth anti-gang and community, and youth anti-gang initiatives and crime prevention, the applicants are available to a wide variety of groups. So your qualifying groups can include victim service programs, violence against women programs, local governments, community and youth organizations, provincial organizations, and these are all listed in the application form itself, schools, school districts, parent advisory councils, police departments or detachments, Aboriginal organizations, and First Nations bands. So any of those could apply. And are support letters required in this stream?
They're not.
They're not, no, not specifically.
You need to provide a description of your community partnerships, but we haven't explicitly asked for a letter or email to be attached.
Yeah.
I think we're going to open it up now.
Conference is no longer in lecture mode.
Okay, so we've opened the phone lines. However, we will be picking up background noise if you aren't on mute. So if you could mute your phone, that would really help us. But are there any questions from those of the folks on the online? Hello? Oh, okay. It looks like we're getting a couple more questions from the link. Thank you from Becky. Hello, thank you for inviting me to the webinar. Is there a deadline for spending of the funding if the proposal is successful? Oh, that's a great question. Yes, you have 1 year from the time that you receive the grant, Becky. So if you are successful, will receive the grant very soon after the decisions are made by the end of March. And you'll have from April 1st, 2016 to March 31st, 2017 to complete your project. And there's another question here. What if we're too far away from other communities to partner effectively? Hi, Tara. Pleased to get your question. Yeah, that's difficult if you're from a rural or more isolated community, and we certainly try to make sure that our grants are really, spread out around the province. So if this is a barrier for you, then please, if you could just describe that in the application form, and maybe there are ways to connect via telephone, with partners if you can't physically kind of co-locate or get together due to the distance. So we're very cognizant, aware of the challenges of rural and isolated communities. So please don't let that be a barrier. However, again, if there's a particular stream that has that requirement, perhaps call the person in the contact person for that stream and talk about that in a bit more detail. Ellie, anything else?
No, I think I would just echo what Ross said.
Leanna says, is asking, are collaborative grants more successful? Generally, Leanna, we do have criteria in many of the streams that promote a collaborative response, and generally we have found in the field of crime prevention that is a very important way to work in community is through a collaborative approach, and so we've set that out as preferred criteria in some of the streams to reflect that desire of ours to see communities really coming together to address a crime prevention issue.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be one community to another. It could be collaboration among different partners within a single community as well.
Okay, anybody else on the phone have a question? Very quiet out there in the ether. Hello?
Hi, my name is Steve. I sent the question to Steve Lauer, but I guess he didn't pass it along yet. So I might as well ask you now.
Okay, sure. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Steve.
That's fine. So I'm new to all of this funding context.
Okay.
So forgive me if this is an ignorant question.
No problem.
Does the funding allow for a basic wage for the administration of the program that I would be proposing? I'm interested in the anti-gang component.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the project coordinator, those funds for to hire and support a project coordinator for the duration of the project would certainly be included and would be an acceptable expense for your project. Absolutely.
And Steve, I'm not sure if you're more specifically asking about an administrative fee or component to the budget. Generally, funding is intended for direct project and program-related expenses only. So that could include staffing, supplies, resource development, operational support, that kind of thing. That being said, we do recognize that there can be a burden on an organization in terms of the administrative, and quite frequently people actually do build in a small percentage of their budget request as administration, and that is fine.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And the recording of the webinar will be available, and Steve's going to send out a link with the other links that we've promised to you. So,
hello.
Hi there.
Hi, this is Karen calling from Surrey Crime Prevention. I just wanted to say thank you. This has been very informative, and we successfully received the grant in 2013. I was responding earlier about that.
Okay.
So we have over 325 volunteers. 80 of them are now trained as mentors for youth at risk. So we will be resubmitting because we have a huge demand in our city. But I just wanted to say thank you. Without this resource, we would not be able to do what we do. So I really appreciate it on behalf of the city. So.
Oh, well, thank you so much for calling, and we really appreciate the work that you do in Surrey as well. Those mentorship programs are just amazing for youth, and the results and response is just fantastic. So thank you so much for calling in and for your work in Surrey.
Thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon. I'm going to hang up now. So
Okay.
Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thank you.
Another question, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's Luke here, and just curious if we received funding last year, so in 2014,
Yeah.
are we eligible to apply again this year?
Yes, you are. Absolutely, Luke. Yep.
Okay. And then on the, I was looking at the different streams, and it says that they're 1-year funding, meaning that it's just, or one-time funding, I think it says, but that does mean 1 year funding for that project, not versus multi-year, basically, right?
Yeah, it means 1 year. One time, 1 year.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions? We still got a few more minutes. I'm just looking through the questions to make sure we answered them all. I think we have.
I have one question.
Great. Hi.
Since we have a few minutes, and thank you. It's in regards to the Violence Against Women Service Provider stream, and it's stating that the training and education project must primarily target the Ministry of Justice. So thank you for providing that list, because that's really important. It looks like, because I represent an organization that's province-wide, that would actually want to provide that training. And so how could that be framed? Because it looks like it might be an organization bringing in another organization to provide the training from what I'm reading in the criteria. Could you clarify that a little bit?
Absolutely. If you are the organization who holds that expertise and is willing and ready to provide training, that's totally fine. You can be the applicant. I know we've asked for a letter of support from the potential trainer or training organization. We'd still ask you to provide that. Perhaps that might be from someone else in your organization that would actually be doing the training, or perhaps it would just be a letter of support that you're providing in addition to completing the application process. So that would be totally fine. And then in terms of confirming the participants, we just ask you to provide a letter or a couple of letters from key community stakeholders that are Ministry of Justice funded programs to show that they are interested in attending your training. Does that help?
Yeah, that really helps much more than what I was reading. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other questions on the line? If not, I've got one more from Leanna, and that is, could complex cases for restorative justice also include training for volunteers and staff to offer victim offender mediation in schools?
Again, I think this is a really good question to call the stream contact about. It would depend on the broader context of your program. If the training is to train up the volunteers in your CAP program to be able to offer a type of restorative justice that would help to better deal with really complex cases, then I think that could definitely be a fit. Training can certainly be a component of that project, but I would really encourage you to call the contact, and her name is Claire Whalen Siddiqui. Should be listed at the bottom of the application.
Okay, thanks, Ellie. We've got another question from the City of Quesnel. And that's okay about your typos, City of Quesnel. Do you know how we become a CAP-funded program for restorative justice?
That's a great question. The woman who's listed at the end of the application, Claire again, for restorative justice, could also provide you with more information on that as well.
So there is a process.
Yeah, there is a process for that.
Okay, and I've got another question from Carissa. We were funded this year to provide training and education to victim services and violence against women programs. Can we apply to run the project again next year? And yes, you may. However, do take a look at the specific criteria again. I don't think there's any real restriction on the type of subject matter. That's it just has to be something that the victim services and violence against women programs need to be trained on.
Yeah, so again, that letter of support would be key, but you could absolutely apply again.
Okay, any other questions on the line? I can hear people typing, so I'm thinking we're going to get another. Could you repeat the last answer?
That one was about, can you reapply for a training initiative?
Yeah.
Yes, the answer was yes, you can. This year, unlike last year, we are asking for more letters of support this year, so your application would look a little different, but you could absolutely apply again.
Yeah, and again, please make sure the letters of support or emails come together. They must be included in the same package, email package, as the application form itself. Really important. We simply can't, include those if they come to us after the application is submitted. Was that clear, Angela? And, okay, good. We've satisfied Angela. Tara is asking, sorry I missed how we find out feedback about previous unsuccessful applications. Please, there should be an email that your organization received last year with a contact email or phone number that you would certainly be able to contact now and get some feedback on your unsuccessful application. And if not, you can simply also email through the crime prevention email address.
Yeah, you can't find that letter.
You can't find that letter or email, or you're new to the organization. That happens, I know. Just email through the crime prevention. What's the email again, Steve?
I'll write it in the chat.
Okay, Steve will write it in the chat. It's the crime prevention email address, and we'll get somebody to give you a call back and take you through that application. And there it is, crimeprevention@gov.bc.ca. I did respond. Okay, so I did respond to the email, but I never got an answer. Okay, Tara, we'll make sure that you submit your email into crimeprevention@gov.bc.ca. I'm sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened there, but we'll certainly follow up and get you a response.
Yes, definitely. Either Roz or I can find your application and we can walk you through it. Not a problem.
And we have a question about how to mute a cell phone.
Probably.
Depends on the phone, sorry, yeah. Maybe you can find out from your cell phone folks. Not sure, there's so many of them out there. Okay, any other calls or questions on the line? We've got a few more minutes. Any other questions on the link? Okay, well, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in, and I don't hear any. So just give you one more minute in case you think of something.
In the interim, it's Patty Boyle speaking again. I'd just like to say that if you have some feedback for us on this process, We'd sure love to hear it, and I don't know who would we send that into the
crime prevention.
To crime prevention. That would be wonderful. We're hearing some things on the line on the chat here, but it would be nice to hear from you, and maybe we can always improve, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Thank you.
This is the first year we've offered a webinar about civil forfeiture, hoping that it would be another tool to help people through this process. So we'd love to hear if you found it helpful, or if there was information we didn't cover that you wish we had, or that kind of thing. Yeah.
And you're welcome, City of Quesnel. We're really pleased you're able to join us today. Okay. Thanks, Angela, Chris. Yeah, we're getting some great feedback here. We're really pleased that you were all able to join us today, and we hope this has been useful information. And please, if you have specific questions about the streams, please have a look for that contact person in each of the applications that are online, and they will be happy to help you with any questions that you have about the process. Okay, well, I guess we can probably sign off then. It's 2:45, so thank you very much, everybody, and we look forward to your applications this year, and to funding some great projects. We know you work really hard in your communities, and we're really, really pleased to be able to support the work you do on crime prevention. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.